I do want to welcome Jonie McIntire. Johnny, if you could unmute your mic. She is the Lucas County Poet Laureate in Ohio, and she's not the inaugural. Her government entity has been doing this, and I know there was an application process. So, first, Johnny, I wanted to welcome you to the Ancient City Poets open mic. How you doing?
Thank you.
Cool. Now, what was like that process? Did you have to get in front of commissioners and all that, or was it a stressful type of thing, or was it enjoyable, or what was it? A lot of competition?
It's interesting because so I'm the third Poet Laureate in Lucas County. The Poet Laureate program started about 14 years ago. Our first one was Joel Littman, and he, was a professor at UT, very active poet, very community building sort of minded poet. And he did a lot of events, and so it was a really appropriate role for him. He, I think, at the time was an advisor to the Arts Commission and, stuff like that. So it started with him, and that was very appropriate, but they didn't really have a process for making any changes. So they just sort of, made him the Poet Laureate, and then it kept going for a number of years until he went, yeah, no, I don't want to do this forever. So it was not very formal at the time, and but he didn't want to lose that role. So I don't really know what the process was at that point, but the next Poet Laureate was Jim Ferris, and he also worked at the university, but he actually works in the disability studies department. And so he brought a slightly different kind of community building component to it, but it wasn't a well-defined role still for him either. So, and I think, in fact, he was sort of not given much direction. He was like, okay, I'll do that, sure, whatever that is. And then I just happen to be a very, very pushy person. And when I heard that he was the new Poet Laureate, I didn't recognize his name. And it's not, you can live in a city, but it turns out it's sort of a small town, the 25 people who actually show up for everything. And so I was being cheeky, but I thought, I don't think I've ever seen this guy at a reading. I want to know who this is. And so I called him up and I met with him at the library, and I said, well, this is a real opportunity. What are you going to do with it? Or what can we do with it? And he was like, I don't know. I wasn't given much. What do you want to do? What can we do? So he, actually started to write up a process because he saw the problem as well. There should be a process. There should be some input in who would take this role in the future. And so I know he had written things up. He had written up a process and some ideas, and he had presented it to, I'm not sure who, but probably the Arts Commission, and the Arts Commission probably presented it to, whatever, city council or well, it must be county commissioners, because that's where the money comes from, or that's where the support comes from. So, but then COVID. So he, and again, he was in that process, he was in that role for a while, and also wanted to not be in it forever. So around 2020, he said, yeah, I'd like to step out of this role. And I think around that time, the Arts Commission really did want to set up some, and the county commissioners wanted to set up a regular process. So what they set up was a process of nominations. You can nominate somebody that you think, and or you can apply for the job yourself, essentially. I say job, but you don't really get paid. There's a little honorarium, but that's not a high paying gig. So you got to do it because you love it. But in order, the process was you have to send in an artist's resume, there was like a narrative, like a half-page maybe narrative. There was a sample of your writings. There was, list your honors and awards. So they definitely had some criteria that went into it. And so that's a difficult process, pulling together all of that information. And then it's not just a little bio. I mean, this is like you want your sort of professional CV. So it was a good practice, right? It was a good thing to do. And so you hand all of that in, and then they had a committee that was made of the former poet laureates, someone from the library, someone from the county commissioner, someone from the arts commission, maybe something else, I'm not sure, but so those people who would ultimately be supporting this position, they looked over all of those, all of that information, the people who submitted to it, and they had to pick 3 to 5 like top dogs, right? And then they gave that to the county commissioners, and the county, we have 3, the county commissioners picked from that top tier. It took 6 months to actually, finish the process. But so I just, I just found out, December 30th that I got it. But yeah, so that was the process. So it was not a painful process. It was, the waiting was the most difficult part because they really didn't communicate much. But here's the good thing. We have a blueprint for a process.
Yeah.
So next time I don't have to reinvent this, we can repeat it, and I can only make it better. And so I'm excited about that, about being able to make it a role that can change as poetry changes, as leadership changes in a city and in a community. And it's something that people feel is accessible to them, that artists might actually, okay, I need to win some contests or get some publications or start a workshop. And okay, if those are the things I need to do, then I need to do those things in order to be eligible. I think what we'll find in the next couple of years, simply because it is set up in this process, that we'll have more people who get involved, and those artists who were doing all of their own good work might do things that will fit some of these roles as well, because it might be a good role for them.
So I got 2 short questions for you. My first question is there a scene that you are laureating over, or are you building a scene in your area?
There is a community here of artists. I wouldn't call it a scene, because that seems exclusive in some way. There are a lot of different artists who do a lot of different things. The role really is cheerleader for arts.
Good.
So that's the role. It's absolutely not to support just one group or one anything, but to create greater visibility of literary arts and greater access.
Dynamite. Now, the second question is, can you share one of your poems with us so that we can get familiar with your work, and
Sure.
that you can put your money where your mouth is?
Okay. Well, I don't know. It's really hard to pick one thing.
I know.
But I have a little older one that I think, I love my city. Here's the other thing. I love the city of Toledo, and I take it for exactly what it is, which is all good and bad and ugly and all of that business. But here's a poem that I wrote a number of years ago. And it's for the city. It's called Resting. On any given street lamp or post, someone in the city is selling a mattress. Pillow top wrapped in plastic, gotta go and cheap as dirt. Hand-penned Sharpie signs on pizza box cardboard, begging only a couple hundred for comfort. Just call, you buy it, you haul it. Which begs the question, why are so many people buying beds on impulse, like inflatable mud hens bats? Is there a truck tooling around town with an ill-fitting lock, queen-size springs sliding off into 5 Points neighborhoods? Is this the lost sex of new couples losing couplehood? Some profound disconnection sweeping a tired Toledo bearing our desires and rejections, tattooing its arms with frantic and constant mattress sales? And yet, there are still couples, still sweating into the early morning on old mattresses not topped with pillows, still sweating onto springs straining to poke up. There is always room here, though it isn't always cushy. Toledo teaches us that. It always makes room, rolls over just a bit when you ask for space, when you make yourself known. Here, there is the perfect spot for you to rest, but you have to work to find it.
Fantastic, Johnny. And